And I had a couple of you like, that's a great app in the Senate, so.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all.
Good. Hey,
We are so fortunate to have Kevin Theobald from SMLS, who is the funniest teacher ever. I'll put some of these in the back. And thrilled at the turnout. Has anybody not signed in? The sheets are right up here, and you do have to know your license number. And with any CE class, you will sign in at the beginning and sign out at the end. So let's take care of that, folks. You've got to sign in if you want to get credit. Sign in sheets up here. Yeah, hope that won't
We're about to take
long.
off. I feel like we're about to take off somewhere.
Oh, good. Somebody got it done. All right. And Greg, raise your hand. Greg,
Remine.
raise your hand. Y'all, this is a brand new agent, Greg Russell. Hello, Greg. He's not a new agent, but he's new to us.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, I think I've gotten everybody.
There's just 2 chairs on that row.
Yes.
Can I slide one in and use the other?
And let me just.
Is that all yours?
This is mine. It's Remine.
Yep, Remine. Got it. You guys like the light on, or do you want the light off?
Pete, would you, on the back light switches, we want to turn off the one that controls, yeah? No, how about the other one? So it does give more contrast, but it's a vote.
It's up to you
Y'all
guys.
prefer,
I'll do it whatever way you want.
are y'all good with this? Okay, cool.
I don't think it'd be easier to see, but I'll do whatever.
No,
That works, man. Doesn't bother
I
me.
feel that way.
All right. All right, we'll go ahead and get started then. Again, I'm Kevin Theobald with FMLS, and we're here for Remine. And anybody had a chance to go in and kind of play with it a little bit?
Yeah.
A little bit, a few of you. So, before I jump into that though, I do have to go over the certain guidelines since this is for CE credit. First thing is we have this scheduled from 11:30 to 2:30. So in order for you to receive the credit, you naturally have to be here the entire time. Excuse me. We'll take a scheduled break, probably roughly about 1 o'clock. Maybe give or take a few minutes. Just depends on the pace we're at that time. If you need to get up, use the restroom, make a quick phone call, anything like that, of course I have no problem with that. But if you do step out during class, there's always 2 things we ask. The first is you're not gone too long. And by long, I always have to put that in air quotes there. I have my 6-year-old doing this now. I would say probably no more than about 4 or 5 minutes. Also, try not to make it a habit, and by that I mean getting up 5, 6, 7 times in middle class. Because either way, if you get up too many times or you're gone for too long, I unfortunately cannot give you the CE credit. That's not me talking. That's Georgia Real Estate Commission talk. So please bear that in mind. If it's an emergency, something very important business related, please go take care of that kind of stuff. It should always come before free CE class. You can always take this at one of our centers if you really need to step out for the rest of the class. So not a problem. Okay? Also, and I usually don't have to mention this at a Keller Williams office, but I will anyways. It's a good thing I checked. Nothing worse than my phone going off. If you wouldn't mind at least putting your cell phones on vibrate, I think we can all appreciate that just so it's not going off in the middle of class. Are we all from Keller Williams?
Yes.
Okay.
So we
and
don't
I don't have to worry about the recruiting while I'm here spiel, because you're all recruited to Keller Williams, so I don't have to worry about that. So we'll skip that. And then finally, in regards to how the CE credit is handled, again, triple checking everybody's signed in.
I'm walking around to catch the latecomers.
Gotcha. Also, does everybody have a paper survey and a blue sheet?
A blue sheet and a white sheet.
Yeah, blue sheet and white sheet.
Okay, Tosh, I'll bring them.
Okay. Oh, they're right there. There you go. The blue sheet is vitally important if you're here for the credit as well, because the blue sheet is exactly what Stacy was talking about. It essentially acts as your sign out. So if you're here for the credit, I will need you to fill that blue sheet out completely by the end of this class. Again, the name of the class is simply Remine. Today is what, the 14th already of January? Are you used to writing 2020 yet? I'm not. All right, so
I'm intentionally doing 2020 instead of just 20.
yes,
Right.
I do. I am too, actually. So please do make sure you fill it out. I'll remind everybody at the end of class, just in case you forgot to fill it out, because I'm going to collect that blue sheet from everybody before we all leave here today. And then once I leave here today, I'll take your sign-in sheets along with your completed blue sheets, scan and email it all into the powers that be, and somebody back at FMLS enters it all into the GREC, and you should receive 3 hours of seat credit for having taken today's class. Now, the individual who processes our classes, she tries her best to process them as quickly as possible. Just in case, if it's taking a little longer than usual, be patient. She does ask for up to 2 weeks to actually get them into the GREC. Who knows? Something could happen. You know, like last month, the GREC took their whole website down for over a week, so there's nothing we can do about that. So things like that could possibly happen. So hang in there. She will try and get them into the system as quickly as she can. Okay? Now, if you have any questions, issues, comments regarding any class you've taken, you can always contact the GREC, and they will try and help you as best they can. If what you do have a question or issue or comment about was a class you took with FMLS, you simply call our main office, and if you need that number, I can give that to you. And you just simply hit extension 2. Send you right to our training department. The individual who answers that phone, she's the one who processes the credit, so she's the perfect person to talk with. And then finally, if all you really need to know is, have I received credit for a certain class? How many more hours do I need? That kind of thing. You can actually just go online and Google GREC. And the very first thing that pops up is the Georgia Real Estate Commission's website with a place where you can log in. And it's going to ask you for a username and password for those who have never been. And the username that you put in is your real estate license number. And then it's going to ask you to create your own password. That way you can just log yourself in on their website anytime and look yourselves up. See if you got credit yet for a certain class. How many more hours do I still need? It's all right there online if you need it. Or if you just so happen to be on our website, fmls.com already, and you start to wonder about that, you have these tabs across the top for you to do various things, including, of course, this tab up at the top that if I hover over it says training. And I have various things I can do here, including the option to check GREC credits. And that actually takes you to their website where you can go and log yourselves in and look yourselves up. And I always encourage agents, once you get to their website, if you're on your own laptop, tablet, iPad, whatever it may be, I always encourage agents to simply bookmark this or add it to their favorites. That way you can just go directly to it every time and not have to Google GREC or have to log into our website every time just to look that kind of stuff up.
And you said username was my real estate
It should be a real estate license number.
Okay, and then password.
Password you pretty much generate yourself. It should ask you to, if it's your first time in, if you hadn't created it yet. Okay? Any other questions before we go diving in? Objective-wise, this being Remine, of course we'll learn how to get into Remine. We'll learn how to better navigate through the new Remine system. We'll talk about searching. We'll spend a great deal of time on how to search within the new Remine system. We will also talk about working with contacts within Remine, and also the carts, which is a great way to kind of store or save particular properties that you want to kind of keep your eyes and ears out for. And then finally, we'll talk about at the end, briefly, there is actually a Remine app that you can download and install. It's free. Anybody have the Remine app yet? A few of you? What do you guys think?
I used it actually in Birmingham. I
Oh,
worked
nice.
over there.
There you go. I didn't even know they were in Birmingham yet.
Yeah.
There you go. So you're already familiar with the product. That's great.
Well, didn't Remine actually come out a year or so ago? Was it?
It's
or
been
just
out
preliminary?
since 2015.
Yeah.
in certain-
Why not? Has it caught on? Or is
Oh, it has. It just, they hadn't been in this market until just last year.
Yeah.
So they've been slowly branching out. They're in various markets right now and pretty well entrenched in certain markets like Washington D.C. and stuff like, which is one of the biggest ones in that case.
Okay.
So they're spread. They've been around for about working on 5 years now in that case. So we've got a lot to cover. Any other questions before we go jumping in? All right, so on FMLS.com, before I go diving into Remine, there's always a few things on our website that I like to point out when I get a chance, because I'm afraid a lot of you kind of miss out on some things. And I joke with agents on this, but I think a lot of agents have what I like to call tunnel vision, where you log into our website, you go up to products, and you click on what you need, and that's it. And you don't ever kind of explore, and that's okay. If I were an agent, I'd probably do the same thing. So I don't blame you. But I can assure you that you are missing out on some things. For example, on the left-hand side, these are the different social media platforms that FMLS utilizes. And if you click on any of these, it takes you to our official Facebook page, LinkedIn profile, YouTube channel, Twitter feed. And we post all kinds of stuff on there every single week. Might be some great real estate related articles we found, and we splash it on the, especially Facebook for that kind of stuff, where you can read it, maybe share with your own clients if you want. Any board events, trade shows, things like that, we throw it on various platforms as well. Also, if any of our systems has a little hiccup or something, we usually do an alert, like on Twitter, for example, and then when it's back up, we'll let you know. The YouTube one is the one I always like to click on and show you real quick. Some of you are probably familiar with it, but some are not. And this actually pulls up our YouTube channel, which is where all of our training videos are found. I should have warned you.
Sorry.
I forgot. No, that's my fault. I should have warned you. It has a little introductory video when you first pop in. I should have warned you. So you can find. Whoops, I'm sorry. Oh, sure. It's on the YouTube channel there.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You got it.
In the middle here, you have the option of playlists. Does everybody see that? You can hit playlists, and the reason I like to go to the playlist on our YouTube channel is it breaks up the videos by topic or product, I should say. So you've got all these here, including, if I scroll down a little bit, like Remine, kind of in the bottom left here, we have 7 different training videos that will visually walk you through the Remine product. So even after class today, if you're still a little hazy on it, you're still kind of scratching your head, how do you do that? There's a video, more than likely about exactly what you're asking about. So go check out these videos. I mean, of course, it's a video, so you can play it any time of day, play it as many times as you have to, pause it, start it back over. Some are short, sweet, maybe a minute or two long. Some of them are like a fully recorded class, like hour and a half class or something like that. So definitely check these out on our YouTube channel. Of course, on our website, again, on the left-hand side is the YouTube icon to take you there. You can go up to that training tab again and go to YouTube training. You can always go to youtube.com or to a YouTube app if you have one and just look up My FMLS. That takes you to the YouTube channel. So you always have access to those videos if you ever need it. All right, a couple other things. We'll dive in. We also have up here at the top, you have the reports tab up here. We got a lot of great statistical reports for each of you to check out when you get a chance. If you're kind of a numbers person, you like charts and graphs and stuff like that. We also offer you, any of you ever heard of real trends before? We offer you real trends when they're made available to us right here. Like 2018, we must have been slacking there because we don't have all. I don't know what happened there. But if you're not familiar with real trends, it's a really well put together, almost like newsletter or magazine in regards to real estate. It's put together by a gentleman named Steve Murray and his team. He's kind of a big name nationally. And we make that available to you in this area. Like we just put up the January 2020 issue just probably within the last week. You simply click on it, and I'm not saying you're going to read every little word every single month, but it's a really well put together publication here. So I highly encourage you to at least skim it each time. right there, because you never know what you will grab from this kind of stuff. And any trends they're seeing, they do interviews, they do all kinds of great stuff. Come check it out when you get a chance. So again, that was under reports and real trends. Okay? And then finally, if I go up to the support tab, there's two things I always like to point out here. The first is you can always contact our support department there. You can either give us a call or email us. Phone number and email address is there. Notice that they are available 6 days a week, so even on Saturdays, if you're having any technical issues, they can try and help you. If you're trying to print something and something won't open properly, let them know. They can try and help you through it. Or, if you scroll up to the top, we do also offer you a live chat option. Any of you ever done live chat before? What do you guys think? Those who've done it. Probably depends on the company, of course.
Yeah.
That's just like anything, right? Well, I'm a huge fan of live chat with most every company right there, and to the point where, especially the larger the company, the more I seek it out. In that case, because the beauty of live chat, if you've never done it before, like with FMLS, you can click where it says click here. You may have noticed under the support tab there is a separate live chat option, and it opens up a little chat window. It's almost like an instant messenger. You can just sit there and type your question, issue, comment, and they could basically you've been connected with our customer support team, and they will just sit there and chat back and forth with you and help you that way. So if you'd rather not sit on the phone or swap several emails trying to resolve something, chat with them. They will love to help you that way. Do notice that our live chat is available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So unfortunately, not on the weekends. If you try it on the weekend, it just dumps you into the email support. So just be aware of that. Okay. The other thing under support I was going to mention real quick is the knowledge base. And the reason I point this out, there's actually two reasons. First is this is all the many or most of the products that FMLS offers you as a member. And I love to challenge agents to be able to tell me what even half this stuff is. In over 20 years with FMLS, I don't think I've had a single person be able to take me up on it. People have tried. But if that's the case, then you're not taking full advantage of what your fees to FMLS pay for. If you've ever paid a fee to FMLS and kind of wonder what in the world is that money going to, or in the future, if you ever pay a fee to FMLS. If you never have, I can visually show you here. This is what your fees pay for, is all this stuff. You don't pay $5 for this and $10 for that and $20 for this. Your fees already cover all this. It covers this training class or any of our training. You don't pay extra for training. It pays for our customer support. You don't have to pay extra for that either because your fees already cover all that. So that's one reason. It's a nice visual of many of the products we offer you. But the other reason I bring you here in the knowledge base, this is where all of our printed materials are. So if you're one who likes a training guide per se, you notice I don't have a training guide to hand to each of you. We used to do that, but we stopped doing that a few years ago because of a huge amount of paper we were printing right there. So we decided, you know what, if you would like a step-by-step instruction guide, this is where all the training guides, the companion guides are right here on any of these products. Like you're here for Remine today. So right here in the middle, I can simply click Remine, and you'll notice they break it up by topic, all right there, if you want that. They also have a quick start guide. That's like a companion guide to this class today. If you would like some instructions involving the app, they actually added that here too, somewhat recently. They even have some videos here, if you would like that. So again, this is all under support in the knowledge base, if you ever need that. Okay? Any questions on that? Well, of course, if you go up to the products tab, if you hover over it, it pulls up the more frequently used products, but it's not quite everything. If there's a certain product you want to utilize or you just want to see more of a master list of the products that we offer you, don't just hover over the products tab. I always encourage agents to actually click on it or tap on it. And it pulls up a more complete list, things that are not even in that drop-down list, including a nice little one-liner about what that product does for you, in case you had no idea what it is. So click on that or tap on it and take a peek. And one click, you're in that product. Including Remine was in that list there, but that one is a frequently used one now. If you hover over the products tab, that's the easy way to Remine. You just simply click or tap on it, should take you in, Okay, give it a second here to pop up. And it brings you in to Remine. Now, we discussed it very, very briefly earlier. Remine's been around for working on 5 years now. And they're starting to spread into a number of markets there. And the way I kind of envision Remine, it's kind of like taking bits and pieces of Matrix and bits and pieces of Realist, our tax system, and kind of mashing it all together, and then throwing extra stuff in there, including the kitchen sink. So it's got a lot of data in here. You will see in a number of places, it's kind of the big term nowadays, Remine uses a lot of predictive analytics. It's not perfect. No predictive analytics for any company will ever be perfect, but it gives you a pretty good feel for a number of things throughout the industry. And they're in tune with a lot of different resources. MLSs in the country, lenders, you name it. They're in tune with a lot of different industries and kind of compile lots of data into one place. And that's where we're at right now. And you'll see on the left-hand side, it's like a little menu of things you can do. We'll go through these various tabs today. They have a little docs area that they're kind of fleshing out right now. I don't know if we'll utilize it or not, to be honest. We might not. So that's why I don't really go into the docs area right now, because they're still kind of fleshing it out right now. So I don't really have much to talk about with that area right now. So stay tuned. I'm sure maybe one day they'll mention the docs area there. But what I always like to point out, very first thing, is if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner, you have 3 options. You have alerts. So as I do various things within Remine, it pops up little alerts for various things I do. We have a support area and a support center. And it pulls up all kinds of information. They do some training themselves. You can contact them directly if you really want to. As I like to say, you kind of hear things from the horse's mouth. If you have questions about that, you can even scroll down. They do articles. They have their own knowledge base for everything Remine. A lot of great stuff in their support center area here as well. So that again is on the left-hand side under support, and if you dive into the support center. Okay? You also have in the bottom left, it should have your first name. And when I click on that, you have various options here, like save searches. And we'll talk about how to save a search in Remine a little bit later on. But that's where your save searches go, and you can pull them up and run them anytime you feel like. Okay? Right there. You also have the option of settings. And I can click on that, and I would encourage all of you to do this. Now, Remine, at some point, I think when we first started working with Remine last year, tried to pull everyone's photo you may have had in Matrix and placed it here. If it didn't, or it's an old photo or something like that, you can change the photo anytime you want to. And that'll show up in various reports that you might be sending out to clients and whatnot. That's up to you if you want to do that. If I scroll down with account information, where it says MLS email, MLS phone, that sort of thing, that's what FMLS has for you, right or wrong. If it's wrong and you would like to update that, don't bother doing it here. I see a little edit account info button right there, but I'm going to show you what that does in just a minute. If you want to update your email address or phone number with all of FMLS, not just in Remine, don't do it here. Go back to fmls.com. So back on our website. I had it as an open tab still, up at the very top here. If you go up to that, and up at the top of fmls.com, there is this tab that says My FMLS. If you hover over My FMLS, there is an option that says Edit My Profile. Everybody see that? Click or tap on it. This is what, right or wrong, what we have for you. Make sure your name is spelled right or it's correct. Like if it's changed recently or something, you can correct it right now. You can correct your phone number, your email address. Update it here. Make sure you hit Save Changes, and those changes will trickle down into all of our various systems. Remine, Matrix, Realist, RDocs, you name it. Any system we offer you, those changes are made in those various systems. And you don't have to sit there and dive into each individual system making the same changes over and over again. Now, if you do make any changes here, like you update the email address or something like that, don't immediately flip over to one of our systems expecting the changes to have taken hold. It takes anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour for those changes to take hold. So just be patient. They should get those updated. Again, this is all under My FMLS. Edit My Profile. Okay? Let me jump back to Remine, which I still had as an open tab at the top. So that will update this information here. Now, if you'd like, you notice here I have a preferred contact phone number there. If you don't mind having that, it's I guess a way to have a second number in there. You can actually hit edit account info and add in a preferred email address or phone number if you wish. It won't override what MLS email or phone does. It adds it as a separate preferred contact phone number or preferred email address. So just be aware of that. You just hit edit account info and put them in if you want to. Keep scrolling down. Your office information, I don't believe you can change that, at least your office name. We'll talk about what your Remine homepage is in just a second here, but you can actually edit certain things with that, I believe. Your display name, that kind of stuff. But what that is, if you scroll further down where it says public homepage. So various things that you do within Remine and you start sending things to clients, they're going to go to a public homepage that you have set up for your client. And it goes to a custom URL that you actually create. All right. Everybody's public homepage is going to have this in the front of it, but you can put whatever you want in here. However, be careful with this. From what we are told, once you put that in, you check availability. If it's available and you say yes, use that, you're done forever. You can never change it. So I have to warn agents. Like, I probably wouldn't put my name in there if it could possibly change one day. Because if I put it in as my name currently, 5 years from now, if my name changes, I'm stuck with the old name from before. I'll never be able to change that. That's what they tell us. Maybe one day they'll let you do that. Same goes with companies. We all work with Keller Williams. Hopefully we all always stay there. But if you were to ever switch companies, you're stuck with it in there. So you can put like greatest agent in the world. You can call whatever you want in here and check the availability. Just be aware that once you put that in, you're stuck with it in that case. So they did warn us about that and why I warn you in my classes. So if you want to think about it, if you're following along, you want to think it over for a while, that's perfectly fine. No one says you have to do it right now. You can kind of think it over, think what I want to call it a little bit later on, and go with that. Now, your logo, you can click and change your photo. If you can gain access to your Keller Williams logo, you can upload it right in to Remine, and that shows up in various reports. It looks really, really nice. So what I would encourage all of you, if you don't have the Keller Williams logo, to go grab it and upload it when you get a chance. Background image, they currently only have 3 that you can choose from, but you can upload your own little background image. So if a client goes, like you sent them some properties and such to look at, and they go to your custom URL homepage that you've generated, it's going to have this nice little background throughout that homepage right there. There's also a little welcome message you can have for them anytime they go to their public homepage to do various things. You can always hit add over here on the right hand side, and you can add a welcome message if you want. Again, that's something that if you want to kind of think it over for a while, feel free. You can edit that. You can update the logo anytime. You can change the background image. The only thing you can't ever change is what custom URL you put in. That's the only thing you can't change once you put it in. Any of this other stuff we're talking about, though, you can always update that later if you need to. Okay? Scroll further down. If someone has sent a chat to you, which we'll talk about that a little bit later, you just make sure that's a toggle switch. You can turn it on or off. If for some reason you don't want to receive chats, you can turn it off if you want to. Also, does everybody see where it says plan? Does everybody say current plan pro?
Yes.
Good. If not, please let me know. So when FMLS and even our competitor Georgia MLS earlier last year, when we first kind of caught wind of Remine, we both competing MLSs decided to sign on with Remine. And when we first rolled it out, both of us, Georgia MLS and FMLS, we rolled out what Remine calls their basic plan, which kind of, I guess it was enough tools to kind of get your feet wet. That's about it. You can kind of see certain tools and such. But there was a number of things you couldn't do unless you kind of upgraded. And before, when we first rolled it out, you were able to pay extra money to gain more access and more tools if you wanted to. Well, in the meantime, FMLS, we decided, you know what, we're going to take a big step forward for you guys, our members. And what we did is starting in, I think it was early November, we signed a contract with Remine and we upgraded every FMLS member, which there's over 45,000 by the way, to the Pro plan. So that you have virtually every tool that Remine offers you. You don't get teased a little bit like, ooh, I really like O and I can't do that. So you have pretty much every tool available to you now in Remine. Hence why I can now do a 3-hour CE class for you. It was a little hard to do a 3-hour CE class with the basic plan. I could kind of show you certain things, but I probably would have been done in about an hour in that case. But with having all these tools available to you now, you got a lot of stuff you can do there. For those who weren't familiar with the cost of that, they charged a lot of money for this information and these various tools. I think the Pro plan was
$95 a month.
I think it was. It was something pretty hefty in that case. That was per month.
Per month.
Yeah.
They were
So-
high pressure too.
Oh yeah. So we asked them a number of times to back off on that too, and so finally once we upgraded everybody to the Pro plan, they don't even have to do that anymore. Like, thank you. So we're happy about that too. Okay. If you want, if you don't already have the app, you can actually just text yourself the login link, get the app, and start using that if you want. Or of course, you just go to your app store and download and install Remine and play with it on a mobile device if you want as well. So all of that is in the little settings area of Remine. Again, that's in the bottom left. You click on your name and go into settings. So if you want to kind of revisit this later today, tomorrow, next week, you've kind of thought it over about, you know, what custom URL I want for my own public homepage for clients to go to. If I now have the Keller Williams logo, I'm ready to upload it in and stuff. Here's again where you go to go do that another day. Okay? The whole managed payments and credits, don't even worry about that. Now that you're all upgraded to the Pro plan, you don't even have to look at that stuff, so just ignore it. Okay? Other questions on that? Can we keep going? So far, so good? All right, so in the top left, again, you have the little menu options here, and you have the daily option, and that's what you actually saw when you first logged into Remine. It's kind of a daily dashboard kind of thing. And they've got little window-looking things. They're kind of like the widgets in Matrix, where they have little uses for each of them. They call these cards, I guess, in Remine, but it's kind of the same logic. They just have certain uses for them. So you don't always have to dive deeper and deeper into various parts of Remine to do certain things. Like they have their own little Twitter feed, and since Remine is nationwide now, they're in many different markets, they throw all kinds of stuff up there about trends they're seeing and what this MLS is doing or that MLS or this trade show or all kinds of stuff. They throw in their little Twitter feed, so you can check that out sometime if you ever want. We'll talk more about these and how you kind of customize them if you ever want to at the very end of class. I haven't bothered to. I thought this was a little strange, but if you want, you can put your zip code there and it'll keep up the weather for you. So I haven't bothered to do that though.
Kevin?
Yes.
The way it looks on my computer and I see on others is different than yours. It just has 2 property notifications saves. Yours is a cross.
Oh, so
Different categories.
it depends on how big or small your web browser's like. If you hit the Control minus key, it makes things smaller. Control plus makes it bigger.
Oh, okay.
See right there? So hold down Control and hit plus, and it makes things bigger. Control minus makes it smaller. So that's how I was able to squeeze more onto.
Mine didn't.
Unless you're Mac.
Unless you're a Mac. That's what, try. Are you a Mac user? Command.
No.
That's right. I always forget that.
No.
Good old you Mac users.
I don't have a.
Command plus, command minus should do it. You hold down the Control key or Command key.
No, it doesn't do it, and I'm not on it.
What web browser are you using?
I'm not.
Using Google Chrome or?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Control plus, Control minus. Okay? He'll get you squared away. Alright, so on the left-hand side, that was the daily dashboard. Every time you log in to Remine, you'll see this. But what you are going to spend a vast majority of your time doing, of course, is searching. So I'm going to click on the little search option there. And it generally will pull up the last area you had pulled up the last time you were in Remine, no matter how broad or specific you are being. There, we'll talk more about this as we go. But up at the very, very top, you'll see a little search bar. Everybody see that? It's a little different way of searching than what we might be used to in, say, Matrix, for example. And it tells you to type in a specific address, zip code, school, or neighborhood. One thing that it doesn't list for some odd reason is you can also type a city in if you wanted to. You can type that in and be specific if you want, or you, of course, could use the map. And Remine is a very map-centric system. A lot of it, and really a huge majority of the use of Remine is through the map itself. And just going over a few map basics. Of course, you can always, in the top right-hand corner, you have a little plus and a minus to zoom in and zoom out on an area. You can always click and drag your map to go further east, west, north, or south if you ever need to. Okay, so zoom in, zoom out. Also in the bottom right-hand corner, you see that looks like several pieces of paper or whatever you want to call it there. You can hover over that, and it defaults to the road map. It's like you opening up a map book. Ever remember those? Wasn't that long ago. Anybody still have one thrown in the back of their car? Right there? Not too many anymore. But it's just like you're looking at a map book and working with it that way. But you do have a satellite view that you have here. And of course, it's the same area. You can just zoom in, you can zoom out, and click and drag your map around and go in a different direction if you have to. Now, keep in mind, and I say this every class that I ever show mapping, especially satellite maps. This is only as up to date as the last time Google, who they use for mapping here, the last time Google snapped these satellite photos. It's not date or time stamped here. I haven't seen a place for that. So I don't know, was this taken a month ago? Was this taken 4 years ago? I don't know in that case. So if you pull up certain areas, they may look pretty up to date, they may not. Like if I pull up my own neighborhood, there's a certain section of it that has some photos on it, and they still haven't quite filled it all in yet. So it's just a matter of when Google last snapped that photo. So bear that in mind with that. And you notice as I'm zooming in and zooming out, whether I'm in the road view or the satellite views, everybody see these little, we call them clusters or bullseyes, whatever you want to call them here. That just means there is a huge cluster of properties to look at. Right now I haven't been specific with criteria, so that's why it's just pulling up properties right now. And I could click on one of these little cluster things here and zoom right up on them if I really wanted to. But again, not really having any criteria. I mean, unless you're just looking at the area as a whole. I don't know how useful that'll be. So if you ever kind of see that and wonder, that's all it is. Just a huge cluster of properties in that area to look at is all that is. Once you start inputting the criteria, you start zooming in and out more and more, or I should say zooming in, those clusters start to disappear, and you actually start to see little dots on each individual property. See that right there? We'll talk more about that in just a second. Okay? That's kind of going over a few basics. You also have in the top right-hand corner of Remine Any of you do map searching, whether it's in Matrix or Realist or? I'm a huge fan of map searching, especially in Matrix. And when I'm searching listings, just think about it. If I have a client who's interested in a home in Marietta, well, Marietta covers how many square miles? I mean, do you mean Marietta like down here by the park or whatever it's been renamed now? What's it renamed?
It's a secret.
Truist. That's probably what.
Truist, yeah.
Yeah, that's the SunTrust Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old
The
SunTrust
old-
Park now.
Yeah, it's Truist.
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow officially.
So, is it tomorrow officially?
Tomorrow.
Okay. So, yeah, do you mean down there, or do you mean like, 25 miles away? Because
Yeah.
Marietta spreads all over the place. All right? So, what you could do is use drawing tools in Matrix, Realist, even here at Remine, and visually tell the system, we want this area right here, this part of Marietta, that sort of thing. We want this side of I-75, or this side of 400, or whatever it may be. You can capture that visually using drawing tools. So I'll do them real quick. So for example, you have a circle, which is by far probably the most popular. You simply click and drag. See right there? Now, here's something that we have personally asked. I don't know if anyone noticed. Hold on just a second. Let me try this again. Clear that out. I'll show you how to do that. Anybody notice as I'm drawing my circle how it's measuring it?
Miles.
Nope. Meters.
Oh.
That made no sense to us. We have asked them, can you please do it in miles? I don't know why they would do it in meters. So hopefully that change is coming very soon. So just be aware of that. I think once you go beyond a certain distance though, let me zoom out a little bit and redraw one. I think it does eventually go into miles. Nope, kilometers.
Yeah, we're stubborn to change.
So yes, we don't exactly do kilometers. That's probably why it does meter. Now you notice as I'm drawing shapes, however many shapes I'm doing here, it actually adds it as criteria up at the top. See up here at the top? If I were to go up there and use status or price or beds or baths or any of that kind of stuff, it adds it into that area as criteria. So if I'm done with that criteria, if I'm done with one of these shapes, it has the two shapes I've drawn separately. So if I want to get rid of one, you just simply hit the little X in the criteria area and that one disappears. If I want to get rid of the other, hit the little X on that one and that one disappears. Okay? Very easy to miss that at first when you're first learning Remine, trust me. I'm sitting here drawing shapes, playing around, and I'm like, okay, how do I clear this out? Adds it as criteria up here. Or if you have a whole string of criteria, you just want to start fresh, start completely over, you'll see up there, let me draw a shape again real fast. Like I'll do a rectangle this time. It's the same thing, click and drag. Pretty straightforward. But once you add any criteria across the top here, it has a clear all filter. So everybody see here on the right hand side?
Yep.
Has a clear all filter. So no matter how much criteria you have up there, you can hit clear all filters and it clears it all out. Do notice though, it does not ask, are you sure? All right? So make sure that's exactly what you want to be doing before you go hitting clear all filters, because it just wipes every bit of criteria you had. You're going to have to start over whether you wanted to or not. Okay? And then the polygon is pretty easy. It's just you left click. This is the one that you don't have to click and drag. I just left click to begin my polygon. This is the one where you can be really flexible with your shape over top whatever area. Like if you want to follow along a certain road or something like that, well, not everything's perfectly circular or vertical or horizontal, right? So you can left click to begin your polygon. See, it's almost like a piece of string. And you just left click where you want each line to go. See? Click, click. And then eventually you'll connect beginning and end. And you have, whoops, I started a new one, sorry. I'll clear that one out. There we go. See? Again, I can come up here and add it as criteria. If I want to get rid of it, just hit a little X and bye-bye polygon. Okay? So if you're a map searcher like I am, you've got these three different shapes that you could draw over top. You can do, they don't all have to be the same. You can do various shapes if you need to. Okay? and then clear them out one at a time, or clear all filters, clear them all out. Okay? Also, if I were to scroll further in, where I start to see the individual properties, where I see the little dots, to us, this is more of where Remine, I think, kind of shines. Is the closer in and where you hone in on an area even more, because there's all kinds of things you can do. For example, I could left click on a particular property, or parcel in this case, highlights it there, and on the right hand side, I know which one I clicked on. And I could click on that to look at it, which we'll do in just a few minutes, but I can click on that and look at it in much more detail. So it's kind of bits and pieces of matrix. So if I really wanted to just see active listings and stuff like that, I could use status up at the top. Okay? However, and I had this question before the class today, and I have to really drive this home. Remine is not replacing matrix. Some people are thinking it's replacing matrix. It's not. Don't quite use it like matrix. All right? If all I want to do is, I want to run a search for active listings with a full finished basement and 5 bedrooms and 3, you can kind of do that. But here's where Remine departs a little bit from matrix right now until they kind of work on this a little bit. Does everybody see up here in the top left? So it says 162 results, but underneath it, mine says 74 unmapped listings, right? It's found 162, but there are 74 more nearby that it's having trouble finding. It knows it's there, but it can't quite put the pin in the right spot. And the reason for that is there are a number of properties in Remine we have found where the listing agent did not put the tax ID number in for it. And that's what Remine looks to pin each property. Well, we've never really required agents to put the tax ID number in. So if somebody over the years has put them in, just put like you've seen a 0. I've seen a period for a tax ID number. Well, it's going to have trouble finding that. So use that as a learning experience for each of you when you are inputting a new listing into FMLS now. If you don't put that tax ID number in, now you know it's probably not going to pull up properly in Remine. So take an extra minute or so and get the tax ID number and put that in as you're inputting that new listing.
If you use the fill feature when you're starting a listing, and it gives you the option of actually putting in that tax ID.
Yes.
And then if that is connected, you get confirmation that it's the right listing.
You should.
You pretty much button it up right there.
Correct. Unfortunately, a number of agents won't do that for whatever they either don't know that's there or who knows, right? So just let that be a learning experience for each of you. Hopefully you're doing that anyways, but just in case there is an actual, reason why you've got to make sure you put that tax ID number in, because if you don't and someone's searching active listings in your client's neighborhood or something, they may not pull up your listing if they're looking in Remine until maybe they have a secondary way to find it, which I'm hoping they eventually will.
So how far back does it pull, for instance, properties that are off the market? How far back?
Oh, this is just properties. This is kind of the piece where, remember I mentioned at the beginning, it's like taking bits and pieces of Matrix and bits and pieces of Realist and mashing them together. What we're seeing right now, these are not just ones that are currently on the market or sold in FMLS or anything. These are just properties.
Right, but
So,
you're saying if it does not have a tax ID number, everything has a tax ID number. So
I'm talking more about ones that have been listed in FMLS at one time or another. And if the listing agent didn't put the tax ID number in correctly, it's not going to map it correctly. Now, on the county end, you're right. For whatever reason, it's not looking at that. I don't know if it's having trouble finding it or what.
So
Some of the property, they're using property data from the county, and if a property hadn't been a transaction in 30 years, then there's a very good likelihood of a lot of that information is not going to be. The property's
that's
there,
what I mean.
Sure.
but they're using more than just FMLS.
Correct.
They're using
There's all
county
kinds of
property
factors
also.
in there. Yep.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
So when you clicked on that one property and it shows it at the very top, These other results, are they gonna be just, are they close by? Are they similar names? How does it group those?
These right here.
Yeah,
Um,
other than the,
you have a sort by up here. Now, how does it default? That is a great question that I honestly don't know the answer to. I don't know what the default sort is,
right?
but you can sort it differently if you want.
I know, but what is it? Are they properties that are close by?
Yeah, they're properties that are.
Within that,
Adjacent, surrounding?
I don't know if they're like necessarily right
Right,
next door. It looks like that one was. So it may be one's just kind of adjacent, as you're saying.
Yeah.
This one right here.
I think keys in query, yeah.
But you can always sort this completely differently if you want by any of this. And then you have the little up arrows if you want to do ascending, descending. You can do that as well. Absolutely. Okay. But back up here in the top left, it says 162 results, but 74 unmapped. You could actually left click where it says 74 unmapped. It kind of freezes the map, but you can still see on the right hand side the unmapped ones. These right here. And these are ones that at some point they're either currently in FMLS that are active or under contract. They may have been listed and sold recently. These are ones that it's had trouble mapping out here, but you can still at least look at them. You just don't see them on a map right here. So you can still kind of flip over to these and click on any of these and look at them in more detail. But if I'm done with that, come back up here to all properties and go back to the map and go do other things if I want to. So I always like to show with those unmapped listings there, you can always hit all properties, come back. But up here in the top left, anywhere you're looking, you see where it says some unmapped listings, click on that and you'll see them on the right hand side. It doesn't let you interact or do anything on the map though, right now. Okay? Also, when you click on a property, whether it's on the market or not, on the right hand side, you can left click on a particular property to look at it in more detail. All right, pulls this one up.
Bless you.
That's interesting.
Bless you.
Excuse me,
Okay.
thank you.
So it pulls up 3 different maps. This one on the left is kind of what we were seeing before. You can zoom in and out if you want. Right. You can click and drag that map around. Well, no, it's not letting me drag. I forgot you can just zoom in and out on this. You can make this full screen though if you really wanted to. Or click on this to make it smaller. So up in the top right hand corner, you can actually toggle it to a full screen view. Clicking, it's still not letting me click and drag, I guess, on this. That's the part that they don't let you do that. You can zoom in, you can zoom out though. Right there. You do have map and satellite up in the top left if you want to. With the map view though, it also lets you do terrain if you want to see like hills and stuff like that if they have it. Okay. Flip back and forth. And then up in the top right hand corner, I can toggle it out of the full screen and back to the property information itself. In the middle, it shows kind of the estimated lot dimensions. Of course, the keyword being estimated. Not meant to replace like a survey or anything like that, but it at least gives you somewhat of a feel for it. Of course, on the right-hand side is the Google Maps, the kind of Google Earth. You're familiar with this. And you can click the little arrows to go up and down the street. For those not all that familiar with it, for many, many, many years, Google has been running trucks up and down our streets, snapping these photos. Anyone ever seen the truck before?
No.
I think they're a little more sophisticated now, but it used to be one with a big old dome over the top of it with a very expensive camera, I'm sure, under it. Snapping photos 360 degrees. And to prove that, you can see this 360 degrees by clicking and dragging or rotating this. Sideways. I guess it's just the way I'm messing with the camera here. So you can click and rotate it. You can go up and down the street if you want. See? You could also, up here in the top left of that area is a place where you can view in Google Maps. And it pulls this up in actual Google. All right? and shows you all this fun stuff. You can kind of rotate, see it a little bit easier. Right here. And if you're done, in the top left of it is a little arrow. Does everybody see this way up here in the top left? You can click on that and switch back. Whoops, I forgot that takes you to a whole different area. I don't want Google Maps. So I'm going to close that tab. And that actually takes me back to the Remine. So it opened it as its own separate tab. I always forget that. So you have a little Remine tab up here, and that is the property itself. So if I ever open the view on Google Maps, I forget, it opens a whole separate tab for that. Okay? Now, scrolling further down, you have property information. Again, they're just grabbing data from all over the place. Tax records, MLSs, you name it. They're grabbing all this kind of information. All right? All up and down. You also have tabs across the top, like off-market, public record, valuation, schools, demographics, property history, associated people. Okay? Or I could scroll all the way to the bottom and I have those same kind of tabs. Like valuation. You know, this is one of those valuation kind of tools, kind of along your estimates and that kind of thing. How accurate they are, who knows. They use they have their own little formulas and stuff, but they actually grab data. Remine does from First American, probably all heard of First American, Black Knight. Now Redfin, this is one that when they first rolled Remine out about 5 years ago, Redfin came to them, hey,
We'll do this.
and they said, sure. So they threw it up here. But since then, the people from Remine even told us, yeah, we haven't had a great experience with them, and a lot of people are not real happy. So don't be alarmed or surprised if one day that one kind of just disappears. Right there. So don't worry about that. These two are pretty big names when it comes to mortgages and stuff like that. So they have their own little proprietary formulas they're using. Just tells you last time they feel they have updated that to a certain point. I don't know if and when you would ever do this, but you can actually do your own, and it'll actually put your name on there. But
Would other people see that?
yes. So do you want to put your name on it? I don't know. That's up to you. Like I'll throw mine on there. It doesn't matter to me. Let's say, it has an amount here, but I can use this to slide it up and down, or I can type a number in there if I wanted to. Hit submit, and looky there, Kevin Theobald says it's 125,008. See there?
Let's go with his.
And yes, it does show. So if someone were to look at that property one day, there's my name. Now, do I want to go there? I don't know. I'm just gonna hit the trash can and delete it. It double dog dares you. Yes, I'm sure. So I don't know if you'll ever use that tool or not, but it's there if you did. We also have like schools. Has this kind of information right here for you to check out. Now it's combining elementary, middle, and high school, and I believe it does do private and public. I have not found a way here, at least, to kind of filter it by private or public schools. I think it just matches it all together. But you can at least filter it by grade level, like high school, middle school, or elementary schools. Right there, and get a little bit of information. Now, I actually went a step further with this one because I'm a clicker, and I'm one who I would like to be able to click on the school and pull it up, but it doesn't let you in Remine right now. So what I always do, scroll down to the bottom of that section there and see where it says niche. That's the name of the company. Any of you familiar with them? Mm-hmm. Kind of along the vein of like greatschools.org and stuff like that. It's another website for that kind of stuff. They're the ones who produce this. So I can either click on their name or where it says learn about scores, and it actually takes you to their website. And you can dive a lot deeper into this stuff if you want. Like you can do a school search, look at school rankings, schools near you. Like if I look at schools search, what's a school? Oak Cliff Elementary, just for argument's sake. So we'll say Oak Cliff Elementary, there it is. I'll click on that one, give it a second here, and it pulls it up. How are grades calculated? You can click on that and learn more about how they calculate the grades and all that good stuff. And it just gives you all this kind of stuff. On and on and nothing on. Homes for sale via Realtor.com. This kind of stuff. Because this is actually a public-facing website, so I guess if anybody could come here and they could see also what's available on Realtor.com, I guess, in that area. But it just goes on and on, a lot of data. Again, it's kind of along the vein of like your rateschools.org kind of website. I had never heard of them until Remine came around, but I've had some agents say it's a good one, so I just have to go by what they tell me. So that's schools. You can close, you can open and close something. Like if I click on valuation, it opens it, click on it, closes it. Same with schools, open, close. You got demographics, got that kind of stuff. One question I have asked, and I'm still waiting on an answer, is it pulls this kind of information. Like, is there a certain mile radius, or what exactly, how does it determine this? And I don't know if it's going by like a zip code or what. I would think they're probably pulling from like the US Census and stuff, so maybe it's all pulled from that, I don't know. All right. Property history, anything that they've been able to glean from this particular property. Again, they're in tune with a lot of the major lenders and such. Property, there's a mortgage tab, including interest rates and stuff like that. Like I pulled up my own property, it was dead on with pretty much everything. I was like, ooh, that's kind of scary. Tax, does the last 3 years.
The sales score low, where the photo is,
Mhm.
or medium or high, how is that determined? Because I've looked at several properties and some have a lot of equity and yet they're still sales scores
Yeah,
low.
it's
So
one of those
I don't know
things
what's
that
determining it.
they don't give us the exact formula for. It's the whole predictive analytics thing.
Right.
And when it comes to, what they did tell us was, on properties you have a sell score. So they take things like homes in the area. What's kind of the likelihood that this home is more apt to transact before, say, the neighbors around? And they use different formulas, but they won't tell us the exact formula.
Well,
That's one of those things where if I went in to the support area, like there was actually, hang on, sell
Well,
score.
I just noticed that, I mean, some of them, if it says absentee owner, yes, it seems to have a higher chance, like a score of medium or something, but not all of them.
Yep.
So it's,
So this right here
yeah.
is what I had pulled from before. Machine learning model that identifies which off-market residential properties are likely to transact sooner than others in their area, measured on high, medium, low. It's attached to properties, whereas buy score is attached to individuals. Like how likely is that person, and you'll see this later when we go into associated people,
Okay.
stuff like that, how likely that person may be willing to purchase something. So they use all kinds of stuff involved, but they won't tell you the exact formula they use with that. You know, it's just one of those things with predictive analytics that might be on, might be off. So where I went, once again, was on the bottom left-hand corner, go to support and the support center, and I just typed in sell score.
Okay.
And it pulled that kind of data.
Okay, thank you.
I wish it would just tell you the formula, but they won't.
Yeah,
So, but it at least gives you, sheds a little light
right.
on that. And you can, and I'll show you this a little bit later on. You can, using map overlays, you can actually include certain filters in there to kind of give you a feel of what they feel, what properties are more likely to transact within, I think it's the next 6 months. It's kind of what they're looking at, that sort of thing. So
Thank you.
we'll look at that, sure. We'll look at that a little more. But near the bottom, again, under the history, you've got the property history, mortgage history, tax, how much they're paying in taxes, and it goes the last 3 years. And then assessments, if they can find all that. I guess they don't have 2019 in just yet. We did just start 2020, so that'll probably fill in probably in the next month or so, I would think. A month or so. All right, so you get all this information. You also have on the left-hand side, you have add to cart, which we'll talk more about carts later. So if I wanted to kind of keep my eyes on this particular property and do various things with it at another time, I could add this into a cart, either for myself or maybe for a client of mine, if I wanted to. I could share this property. I just type in the recipient's email address, email message, and hit send. It's that simple. Or you see right here, I can copy and paste this link and plaster it anywhere I want. I want to send it in a text message. I want to send it in a Facebook message to someone, whatever. You can just copy and paste that, and it'll, anybody who clicks that link that you send it to, it'll take them right to this property.
And they'll have access to all the information.
They'll have just about all this info. I can't think of anything that is, there's nothing I can think of that is really sensitive, I guess you could say. I mean, this is, it's pulling a lot of tax data, so anybody can go to the courthouse or public county tax records. So, you know, same with Google Earth and all that. They could go to Google Earth and pull that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's, I can't think of anything that's necessarily sensitive that they wouldn't see. You also, of course, have a print option if I want to print this, or I actually have a CMA choice. For those who use Cloud CMA, you could actually take this property and plug it in to Cloud CMA if I needed to, and do all kinds of things like a property report, a flyer, paste a CMA over it. But they also have a Remine CMA, which just basically takes you to an area where you can pull up comps in the area and hit search and just go through. I didn't really put any criteria, but you know, there and in the top right-hand corner is a save and continue, and you just go through and you can actually jazz it up some if you want. Upload your company logo, your photo if you want. It's a report. You're putting together almost like a full-blown CMA through that tool. Okay. Oops. Let you close out of it. So that is, again, on the left-hand side of a property, that's under CMA. Then you can check these two out, and it looks like the one that I just opened still give me the opportunity to edit or delete it if I don't want it. Okay. Questions on that? Now there is one thing here, I never personally have played with it. I don't know if any of you noticed. See up here at the top where it says public record? See the edit details? This is actually, if you pull up a property like your own house, for example, and you see things that are wrong, you can actually submit it into Remine and they can look into it and possibly correct it. So, I've never personally done that, but that's, I have a property pulled up, and up here at the top where it says public records, everybody see where it says edit details. That's where you can go do that if you ever had a reason to. But also, and I'm a huge fan of this I have done before, as I'm in Remine, of course, I mentioned earlier, you can always contact FMLS. Our customer support will try and help you. But I am a bigger fan of always going straight to the horse's mouth on this, right? So in the bottom right-hand corner, somebody see this little chat bubble right here? You can do a live chat directly with the people at Remine about anything. You know, you had the question earlier about self-score. You want to learn more about self-score. Chat with them. And they'll try and discuss it more with you. What's buy score? What does this mean? What does that mean? Chat with them. They'll try and help you through it. You know, so even after class day, you're still a little hazy on things, go chat with them. I have used that before. It's really good, actually. They're very receptive. Okay? Now, if I would like to go back to the map that I had where all the other properties and everything were, well, notice when I opened this property, they use a tabbed approach in Remine. See how the property I have open right now is its own separate tab up at the top? If I'm done with it completely, just close the tab. But if you would like to leave that open and go do other things in Remine, leave that alone. And just go back up there to the separate Remine tab and you can toggle right back. See right up here at the top? My cursor, there it is. Just come right up here at the top and just toggle right back to that. So, and I can just flip back and forth. I can come back over here, click on a different property and open that one up. And I can sit here and flip back and forth between multiple properties. See there? I come back here and open a third one. Right? So it uses a tabbed approach within Remine here. If I'm done with it, just click the little X and close out of it. See there? Also, here in Remine, if you have drilled down far enough on your map where you start to see the little blue dots, on the left-hand side, this is where I really kind of like Remine and where I think it really kind of shines, is this is where you can do certain map overlays if you want to. So if I hit property value, for example, I can do this sort of thing. I can click and drag my map around, it'll follow me. A second here to update. See there? Most of these homes are going to be about the same. And it gives you a guide of what the different price, the property value ranges are in that case. You've also got things like home equity. And again, things like home equity, you gotta remember they're using predictive analytics. So what they're doing is they're looking at these individual properties and saying how long have the homeowners lived here. They have a pretty good idea of how much the mortgage was, what was the interest rate. If they've lived here this long, they should be about this amount in equity in this home, but they don't know 100%. For all they know, the homeowner may have been paying it down a little faster. They don't know that for sure, but using predictive analytics, they have a pretty good idea about where they should be, at least. So that's where things like home equity, could be dead on. It might be a little off. You don't know for sure.
Wasn't Remine, I mean, that's kind of what it was selling itself on years ago, I thought, based upon the equity value of a home, the likelihood of that person probably wanting to sell.
Sure. Well, that's where the buy score and sell score, all that kind of stuff comes in. You also have on the left-hand side ownership time. They have a pretty good idea how long they've been living there. Here's that sell score right there. Again, this is a bad area. Let me go see if I can find a different area. See, if I zoom out far enough, though, I don't see the overlays. You have to be zoomed in close enough on an area where you start to see the blue dots before these kind of things actually come into play. See there? So be aware of that. If you're zoomed out too far and you don't see any map overlays, you're zoomed out too far. In that case, see there? I guess I have to, actually, I can turn it on here, but once I zoom out probably one more time, yeah, they disappear. Okay? So you can turn it back on anytime. You also have absentee. How do you think that could maybe help?
It's a rental.
Yeah. So how exactly can it tell if the owner is occupying that or not? What it does is it looks at the property address, sees that the tax bill goes somewhere else, so it's kind of assuming, okay, well, if they're not living there, it possibly is being leased right now. Right? It doesn't know for sure. In that case, even you could do kind of the same sort of thing in Realist.
Yeah.
Our tax system, but even Realist doesn't know for sure is someone actually leasing it right this minute or not. It has no, all it knows is the tax bill goes somewhere else right now. So it's either being leased right now or it's vacant, or maybe they're in the process of trying to lease it. Who knows?
So if you click your filter selections under those color coding above apply, and then you hit apply, the colors disappear, but only the dots that match that criteria remain. Is that how it's working?
You're saying like these right here?
Yeah, like click two.
Yeah, when you start using these, that's where it gets really fun, because that's where you're actually, you check one, and it's only displaying the ones that you have checked. Like I only want to look at the ones that say absentee in state.
And those are the ones that come up on the right side? Right.
Yes.
Those switch too?
Yeah.
Okay.
That, it filters it. Very good question. Now, what I can do is hit the blue apply, as the gentleman's asking there, and see what it did up at the very top? It added it as criteria. You can do multiple filters in the same search.
And if you save it, tomorrow it will send you an email if something else comes into your criteria.
So the Airbnb.
He's stealing my thunder here. Oh, sorry. No, you're fine. He's absolutely right, though. That's where it really gets fun.
So for giggles, I clicked on Airbnb and I didn't see.
Oh, hang tight. Don't jump too far ahead. I want to show everybody that one. You guys are wanting to steal my thunder, aren't you? It's fine. Again, if I'm done, like I don't need that as criteria anymore. I don't need to filter by it. Just go up to the top, like I said, hit the little X, and it takes it out. Okay? So that one was absentee, but you can do that with pretty much any of these. You want to narrow it down by cell score. You want to narrow it down by ownership time. Like I only want the ones, maybe what's kind of the sweet spot for people when they are more likely to sell? I think, don't they say like 7 to 12 years?
You never know.
Around there.
You never know what they're worth.
So I could either click 5 to 10 and 10 to 15, or see up here where it has a minimum maximum? I can type 7 to 12. Hit apply. Give it a second here. And the little blue dots I see on my map right now are ones where the owners have lived there between 7 and 12 years. See there? You're filtering now by these little, does everybody understand what I'm talking about? This is where I think Remine really starts to shine, is this stuff.
Well, what's really cool is, remember when it was $95 a month? You could only have 200 dots. Now you can have all the dots you want. This is
Unlimited dots.
Even with the unlimited dots, there you go. And with the basic plan that we originally rolled out with, I'd say about at least half of these little overlays you couldn't even do. Right there. So now that you're under the Pro plan, you can pretty much play with all of these now, which is really nice. So you got that. I can come up here. I can close out of that if I don't want that one anymore. So just go through flood zone if I really need that. A different flood zone area. Choices here. Turn this on.
Beware.
I could use, I just want to look at the high risk ones. You got that. You got building type. Single family, condo, townhome, multifamily, land use. Here's that Airbnb.
Wait, what's Airbnb under?
It's on the left-hand side. You might have to scroll down a little bit in the list. Your overlays.
I see it.
Yep. So click on that one, and depending on the area I pulled up, and if there are any, like I had one right here. See? But wait. Anyone played with the Airbnb before?
No.
A little bit.
Just a little bit? So yes, I see that. That's great. I can see that. However, you can go a lot further with it than just seeing it on the map. So on the map with Airbnb, see, this one here says $125.
Yeah.
I can actually click on that number, pulls this up, this little window. But wait, you can actually click, see where it says clean, cozy accommodations?
Yeah.
You can actually click on it and it takes you to Airbnb.com and that specific property. See right there? You can see reviews, you can see all kinds of stuff. So if you have maybe, a client considering turning their home into an Airbnb or so, who knows what. What's in the area? I want to avoid ones that have Airbnbs. I don't know. There's all kinds of things you can do here. Okay? Now the Airbnb is kind of an interesting one because